Hey, 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 hey! So, I thought I was going to talk to you about a phenomenon that you may or may not experience, but you probably are going to. This is, it's like this is what happens. It's like the closest thing that a programmer can get to what movie stars feel when they make it big and they have all these friends who all of a sudden like weren't really calling them that much, and all like from absolutely nowhere they're always calling and they always want to hang out and, hey, do you have some money, can you get me tickets to your thing? And the closest thing a programmer can get to that is that they have friends who say, hey, you know, Frederick, I have this great app idea. I have an idea for an app. It's going to be very close to, like, it's going to be something very close to Facebook, but with a twist. Facebook with a twist, that's what it's going to be. And, you know, since I have absolutely no idea how much time and how many billions that goes into building Facebook, I'm going to consider this favor you're going to give me the same thing as that time that I helped you move. So how about I give you 2 pizzas and you just, you know, churn out that code in a day or 2, right? Because trust me, if you get to a point where you are a professional level programmer, and if you are I'm not saying that everybody has friends like this, but trust me, you are probably going to meet people who have an app idea. If you're passionate about what you do and you really like, and people can tell that you are, and especially if you have multiple small projects and you talk about the things that you build for yourself and things that you think are fun, they're going to start, like, the ideas are going to start popping up in their head. And the issue is usually that these ideas are, although some of them may be great, I'm not saying that they won't be great, I'm just saying that the trap that you're going to find yourself in is that they have, like, the people who think up these ideas are very rarely the type of people who have what it takes to make something happen. That's why they are coming to you, because in essence the way that they think that the problem can be solved is to have them literally sit on the toilet or in the shower, spend 5 minutes thinking, and then asking you to solve everything else. And the workload, and then, you know, then of course you split it 50-50. So the workload is going to be 5 minutes of thinking on their side and 5 years or 5 months, whatever, depending on the size of the project, of coding for you. So here are, I can only tell you what I've been doing so far, and this works fairly well in dealing with this type of behavior. Now, I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't hear people out. I'm just going to tell you to be smart about it, because I'm pretty sure that if you're like me, you want people to like you, and you want to, like, have a nice way of explaining to them, like, to explain the situation, because some people, it's so difficult. It's the same phenomenon you see with people who are looking at your own apps. Now, odds are that they spend so much time with products that Google and Facebook and, like, Microsoft and all these people, like all these giant corporations are developing, that they get spoiled to the point where that becomes their default. And I think that's a sickness. They have absolutely no idea how much time and money goes into building that app that they take for granted. So what I'm trying to say here is that you have to kind of educate them, to make them understand, like, put things in perspective to them. Because let's say if you're a carpenter and you're like, it's much easier if you have something physical that they understand, to so that they understand the size of the project. So if you, an analogy I like to use is I like to tell them, like, you know, because I actually do have a friend who once told me that his idea was very close to Facebook, and I stopped him immediately and I said, all right, dude, let me put this into perspective for you. So Facebook, I'm just going to assume that you are actually thinking of Facebook as it is today, because the way that you're describing it, it's not like a little tiny project. You're talking about a full-blown social media with all the features that go with it, and probably, like in your broad terms, you're not even describing how much of Facebook you want in and how much is going to be your own thing. But I'm just going to assume the worst case scenario here. Facebook has thousands of people working to make that product what it is today. And that's where what you're looking at right now. You're not looking at the small little startup, you're looking at the giant corporation product that you know and love. That means that this single product quite literally has millions, if not billions, invested into developing it to what it is today. So think about that. That is, and you're asking me as a single developer to churn out that code. And I'll tell you right now, sure, I can do that if I spend most of my life building it as a single developer. So if you can't wait that long, we're gonna have to find another way to get you to where you want to be. And the analogy I used was to say that the thing is that you don't understand how much time it goes into this little thing, because in your mind it's just an app on your phone or just a web page that you visit. But if you think about it from the perspective of a building, so if you have a single carpenter or single builder, odds are that you understand that asking that person to build a skyscraper like the Empire State Building is a fairly large task. You understand that this is a big project. It's a really, really big project. And that's what you're asking me. You have a single builder and you're asking that person to build a skyscraper alone. And it's not gonna fly. So usually what happens for me is that they get a little bit frustrated because, you know, they had this great idea and they start talking to you about, oh, but I thought you knew these things and so forth. And what you need to do, in my opinion, to make them feel like that they realize what the situation is, to make them feel that this is a team effort, because it is a team effort. If you ever wanted to start up a startup and you're the technical guy or girl, you will have to have a serious talk with the person that you are going to pair up with. Because remember, if they are not technical, and if you don't handle this well, what's going to happen is that you are most likely going to get really frustrated and do all the work. Because that's like when you start up a new IT company, it's very rare that you can, like, non-IT people can be productive and help out to start off with. I'll talk about how to do this in a sane way in a future video, but for now I'll give you this tip. So what I do in order to get my friends off my back and at the same time give them a door to actually feel that, you know, I can come to Fredrik if I do the work. I'll tell them, okay, so what's your budget for this? Most of the time they'll say, what do you mean? Oh, well, I assume that you understand that building, like, you have to ignore the fact that, you know, I have to live if you wanted me to do this full time. But if you want to do it part time, yeah, sure, we can do that, but it's going to take a long time. But you still have to have a budget, because there are costs in running an application. Like, you have to have a web server and so forth. That costs money. And then, do you have a design? Do you have a vision of how things are going to look? Because I'm the guy who builds the thing, but you need to tell me what it's going to look like, or we can figure that out together. But are we going to do that too? And then they say, well, I don't really have a design. Well, that's pretty important, because how are we going to build something if you don't know how it's going to look? And then you ask again, so what's the first feature going to be? What's the first thing you want to build? And they kind of go, I don't know. Well, okay, maybe you should know what the first thing is to build. And you start adding these. This is things that you learn in IT if you work as a professional programmer, because this is the way they work, the way development works. You have to get them into your world, to give them a snippet, or I guess an insight into the way that software development actually works in the real world. And you will very quickly make them understand that, oh shit, there's actually more to this than I thought. And then you start seeing that they realized, oh, this thing is building and becoming this big, massive thing. And for the most part, they're going to give up on the idea after that. Because, you know, most people don't actually, I mean, these people, you can think about it this way. Most people don't even have what it takes to go to the gym twice a week for a year. Do you think that they finding people who are willing to invest the type of time it takes into a startup or something like that, that's pretty tricky, because don't be fooled. Even if they say that it's this tiny little project, odds are that you're going to spend a lot of time on it. And I highly recommend that if you want to do that, make that investment, because trust me, I'm not trying to discourage you. It's a great experience to run your own startup. It's so fun. It's really fun most of the time, and you have a great time if you have the right people. But that's the key. You have to have the right people with you, because if you don't, all it's going to lead to is a lot of frustration for you and your friend, and odds are that you're going to ruin your friendship.